Hello. Yes, there we go. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How is everyone? Ali Ibrahim Subhan wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Lasif, you're back. Very glad to have you back. How's everyone doing today? How are you? How are you? How has your Saturday been so far? Tu-tu-tu, 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 tu-tu-tu. Fine, what about you? I am good. Alhamdulillah, I'm very good. And I just realized that I need to change this guy. Code with Ahsan. Yes, let's go. So, are you excited about what we are talking about today? It has been good. I woke up early, so that's good. Then had a breakfast, that's also good. Alhamdulillah. And then I was preparing to clean up my desk. So my desk is super clean right now, and I think it has been months since I had a clean desk. So that's really good for me. How about you folks? And I think it really makes one productive. At least that's what people say. Yeah, it's Remix Run. Has anyone of you already explored Remix Run? Can I see other activities as well? Redemptions. Yeah, I think redemptions as well. Cool, cool, cool. So I can see all of those here. So we're going to be looking into Remix Run today. We are going to either, because I was thinking we could do multiple things from here. We could implement the basic example that they have provided and see how that looks like, or we could also build something on our own. And I was thinking about what we could build. We could build a particular application that focuses on sort of the strengths of Remix itself, because Remix is a framework that is quite different from the conventional ones, because its area of focus is a bit different as well. So let's quickly jump into what it is and how we can get benefit from it. And everyone who's watching this video right now, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Like the video, that really helps the algorithms of Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. That really helps the channel. That's the least that you can do to give back to the community. So let's have a look at Remix. I'm looking at the messages as well alongside. Please make a project in Next.js and TypeScript. Okay, I'm gonna add that to the list. Is there a particular thing that you need, um, that you really need for me to build with Next.js and TypeScript, or do you just want a tutorial? Because I can also look into what we should be building with that. And my face is gone. Let's actually go here. Must know JavaScript topics to start with React? No. No, but it's better. I mean, if you know about JavaScript a bit more, then you are most likely going to do better in these topics. So I hope that makes sense. It's not absolutely necessary to know those things, but it helps. The better you know JavaScript, the better you're gonna be looking at that. I'm gonna also remove the header. I don't think we really need that. Let's remove that. Cool. I think we have much better header now. Alrighty, I'm gonna quickly go and check if my server is running. It's not. Let's run it. Cool, cool, cool. App crashed. Cool, cool, cool. Already in use. Okay. If you ever run into this situation, can you see my screen, by the way? Because it's supposed to show the other one. When I go to the other screen, do you see it? Like this. If you see it, then that's really good. So there's npx kill port 3000. If you do that, it essentially kills anything that is running at the port 3000 or a particular or a particular port. Anyways, let's do a yarn start. All right, our service ready, our banners are ready, and we are good to go back to the other one. Alrighty, let's begin. First of all, I'm gonna quickly refresh the bottom banner so everyone can see a couple of messages from us. So you can see we have some commands that you can run on both YouTube and Twitch. So feel free to run those commands to know about either the socials or the gears and whatnot. All right. So anyone who has worked with Remix so far, let me know in the comments. And also let me know what do you think we should be building with Remix in general. So we're going to be looking into a really small example to see how things work in Remix. We're also going to be seeing a couple of things actually. We're going to look into the way Remix works, the concept of Remix, how that works in general, and what kind of areas it focuses on. So this stream particularly is a very focused, very accurate stream that I would highly suggest you to share with your friends if they are online, so they can get benefit from it, or they can also watch it later on as well. Walaikum assalam Mubashir Khan. Glad to have you here. So let's talk about Remix, what it is, how is it different from the other projects or other frameworks that are out there, right? First of all, Remix is eliminating a problem. At least that's what their selling point is, or that's how they promote their framework. In general, Remix is a weird mix of server side and client side programming, and there is a very thin layer between those two when it comes to working with Remix. So it's quite different. It's a different approach in terms of how you design things, but somehow it also makes sense. So let's first have a look at this code, and I can tell you how it essentially looks. So first of all, we know that every application has some pages, of course, but they also have some sort of forms. For instance, login, sign up, and whatnot. Imagine that you have a page where you have a form, and this form has some sort of input, let's say title. All right. If you need to fill this form and submit the data, Remix makes it easier to have some things by default in the project, one of which is called action, and the second one is called loader. What happens in this case is that when you run action, it essentially does a particular job. For instance, you can see that it essentially gets the form data from this form, and then it calls this action called create project. And this action essentially is supposed to do some particular thing and then get back the data with you. Now, this is all theoretical, but when we do into coding, you will essentially understand it more. Before we do so, let me quickly do one little thing. And that is, I really need to share this so others who are watching this can also join in. And guys, make sure to react on the stream if you have not, and also make sure to share this on your wall, because I see there are no shares so far. So please do that so others can also chime in and also find this helpful. All right, let's see. Have I shared it? Yes, I have. Cool. All right. Let's begin. So the problem that Remix eliminates, as I said, is some sort of this situation. Every page that you use usually in your web application, if it's based on some data, there is most likely going to be the case where you have some sort of URL. As you can see here, it says example.com, sales, invoices, and there's an invoice ID here, right? So if this is a page where you have sales, and in those sales you have this particular, where you see 8,000, this is a particular sales item or one item out of all these sales that you see here. So these are all the sales: Santa Monica, Stankonia, Ocean Avenue, these are some sale items. So these are list items. But if the user would click one of those, they will see the detail of that item, right? So this is a whole structure of the page. Now, what Remix does is that it has a different file for every page, right? And it makes it really easy to manage those because each file actually can be executed in parallel, which means that when your page loads, it will essentially first load the document, but then it would do, in this particular case, four things at once. It will essentially call the data for example.com, the top level route. Then it will call in parallel, which means at the same time, it will also call this sales nav.json. So it will get this nav data, the data that you see at the top, overview, subscription, invoices, customer deposit. Then it will get all of the invoices in parallel at the same time. So all of these are executing in parallel, which means that if your application loads in 2 seconds or 3 seconds, in 3 seconds, all of this data, all of these calls will be executed at the same time, and you will get the data at the same time as well. So it gets one for invoices, and then finally it also executes this particular chunk for the detail at the same time. And this is really cool. If you go forward in this, and this is the homepage of Remix Run, but this is also really cool how they show this. So as we can see here, if I mouse over on any of these, it shows us that this root has this file called root.js. Inside that root.js, there is a call or API call for the user.json. When we call user.json, then we get the particular user or whoever is logged in. Then we go to sales, and then we get the sales nav.json, which essentially uses this guy here. Then it has invoices, so it gets this particular invoice. And then finally, we have this invoice ID that essentially gets the invoice ID. All right. So this is what's happening right here. Now you can see that through nested routes, Remix can eliminate nearly every loading state, which means that the highlight of Remix Run, or the way that they market, as I said, is that they are saying that, hey, when the user opens your application, the user will most likely not see any sort of loaders because Remix is so fast. It loads the data in parallel at the same time for multiple sections of your pages. So the loading state is almost eliminated, right? Let me think about, what do you think about Remix so far? Do you find it fascinating? Do you think it's cool or not? What do you think, guys? In the meantime, I'm going to show you another example while you answer that question. So here is a situation where we have something without Remix and something with the Remix. And this is a really good presentation of how they try to eliminate things with Remix. You see that when I'm going to scroll, this is a timeline. So you see that here the document starts loading at the same time. Then if I go forward in the list, you see that without Remix, in a regular application, when the document loads, then JavaScript kicks in. And then JavaScript, it starts, or maybe even by this time, JavaScript has not kicked in. So you see a fake loader, right? You see that whenever you load a page, the HTML loads and you show a loader. Then the JavaScript kicks in. So you can see that here we are kicking in the root.js. That essentially fetches some data. And then what happens is that first you get, so you can see here in this case, we first get on the left, we get this whole data for the user, because at this time we essentially get the user. So here you see the user data. But by this time with Remix, all of the data is fetched because Remix loads all things in parallel. You can see that here we first load root.js, then we start with user.json and sales. By this time, root.js, sales.js, invoice.js, and invoice.js is also loaded with all of the data, because this is essentially server-side rendered as well. So it's a combination of server-side rendering plus client-side rendering, because it does that in parallel, and which is absolutely cool. Now on the front side, you see that these calls, they are being loaded in parallel. The root.js, sales.js, invoices.js, and invoice.js, they are all loading at the same time, which makes it faster. So if I go forward, you will see that At this point, this is already loaded, but now it's loading the sales data without remix. This is still loading the sales data, so there's a loader. Then it gets the sales, all right? Then if we go forward, then it starts loading the nav.json and then invoices. So you will see that when it gets the nav.json right here, then it gets invoices. So invoices are here, but now there's a loader at this particular point where we have to actually see a particular invoice. So for a particular invoice, then it starts this invoice.js call. And now you see once this is loaded, then you actually finally see this data, right? So this is what it's about. Here you can see that if we compare all of this along one side, Remix essentially loads everything at once. But with the other cases, that's not really true. Lego Logic is like, oh, another framework. No. So the fun fact is, if by the time we are talking and having this conversation, there's already another JavaScript framework being created. That happens. So this one is been in the works, I think, for more than 1 year, because I've seen different talks into 2020 as well. But this is starting to be mature now, and this is probably something that's going to be adopted maybe really soon. What are my thoughts on TypeScript? TypeScript is amazing. Never let go of TypeScript. I have been working with TypeScript for more than 5 years, I think, especially when it started. So Angular was the first framework to adopt TypeScript, and I have been working with Angular for more than 8 years now. So I'm very used to it. One of the old people to adopt it. So you hate JS now? No, I love JS, but I love TypeScript more. TypeScript is actually a superset of JS, so you cannot hate JavaScript if you are loving TypeScript, because they're essentially the same. TypeScript is just a better form of JavaScript. Nested routes allow Remix to make your app as fast as instant. Yes, so we already talked about this. I don't think there is much more to talk about this, but the fact, you mean raw.js? Yeah, I like raw.js, but I don't really trust raw.js when it comes to scalable projects or scalable products without validation. So I would rather prefer TypeScript compared to raw JavaScript when it comes to enterprise applications. As simple as that. But if I have to get something done really quick, maybe create a really simple, really simple library or really simple project, or not even library, because I would prefer TypeScript over JavaScript in libraries as well. But let's say a really simple project that I want to just get up and running and start using it, I would probably use JavaScript in that case. For instance, the tutorials that I usually create, I think we do have, where did I have it? Or maybe I think it's asan.irs, no, asanirs.github.io from the JavaScript. I think this is the latest tutorial that I worked on, the HTML.js binary tree. And the video of this one is going to be live today. So watch out for it and go to the YouTube channel if you have not already. So I've told how we create this fancy little tree structure with JavaScript in that video. So for these kind of things, I might go with JavaScript. But if I have to be honest, for enterprise projects or even for my own products, I would much rather go with TypeScript. So talking about the forms in Remix, it's really simple because you don't need to have a lot of things here. There are only a few things that you need to do. For instance, you can see here is that we have a new invoice function, which essentially returns a form. So this is JSX. So Remix essentially uses JSX just like React. And what it does is that here you have a form, you have a method for post. What it does is that it takes only the type and the name is essentially then used to submit it. And this is all you need for having a form. No fancy JavaScript required, which is amazing. Hey, Yishu, how are you doing today, my friend? So I also needed to do one more thing. Let me see if I have done this right. No. I also needed to tweet about Let's see. Uh, Going through. What is the Twitter handle of Remix Run? Twitter Remix Run. Is it remix_run? Yeah, I think this is the one. So let's quickly actually tweet about this. And also, folks, if you are on Twitter, you can tweet about us working on this. If you want to grab my Twitter handle, it is musd_snias. I'm going to share this really quick on chat. This really helps with getting out the word, to be honest. And if you're interested in in looking at what I do, this is what I'm trying to do. It looks like a Frankenstein, but I tried creating a heart for the latte art, and this is how it has progressed through different days. This is a brain. That's me. This is sort of a dragonfly. This was also supposed to be a heart. And I think I have not posted my latest status of how I'm creating the latte art. But yeah, let's get the word out. So I'm going to quickly share this with the tweet. So we are going through Remix Run. Um, Live right now. All right. So we do this JavaScript, and I think we are good. Let's send it. Or maybe we should have a really simple-ish image as well. So let's use. Did you know there's a shortcut in Windows which is Windows Shift or left shift and then S, and when you do that, it opens this snipping tool, which is really handy. So you can take an image just like this, and then you get a notification, and then you can have a look at this just like this, or you can save it wherever you want. Let's say save this as desktop, and then you can share that. So I'm going to quickly share this and tweet about this. Just bear with me for a sec. So this is the screenshot, and there we go. So I think we should have our tweet done now. Let's see. Bum 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 bum. There we go. Awesome. So I was talking about one more thing that I forgot. Let's see. Yes. And there's also one really cool shortcut that you might not know about. If you are in a particular text box on Windows, you can press Windows, the window key, and then the dot key just around the right shift. So when you press a window and dot, you get this emoji. So you can use this emoji box anywhere in Windows and then just add those emojis right in the input. That is super cool. I didn't know about that until yesterday or the day before when I was in a Google event or a Google developers community event, and someone shared that. So that's super cool. I didn't know about that. All right. So now that we have this, let's see what we are missing. There's one more thing that I wanted to share with you. So we went through the form, how you create a form. Then when you submit this, it automatically calls this action method. Every remix page or component has this, which means that you can use this action to get this form, and then you can do something like, create invoice or use some sort of API. And you can also then use the redirect method to automatically go to that particular page, which is absolutely stunning. This is a really small code that does a lot of job, right? Similarly, there's also one more thing that I wanted to share, and that is when you run something in Remix and you have a state. For instance, let's say you are creating a new post or you're creating a new data. What would happen in that case? Hey Adarsh, how's it going? Welcome. So when you're looking at Remix for creating a data, and you would see that in that case, we have some situation where we press submit, and then it essentially would be in a state where you're submitting the data, what would you want to show in that case? Would you want to show a loader in that case? Maybe not the greatest idea. So it would allow you to use this transition variable, which has different states, for instance, submitting. And I think there are multiple states as well. I've not gone through all of that yet, but we're going to probably explore that soon. So when you're submitting the data, it can change the output of, let's say, saying creating invoice. And then once it's done submitting, it would go back to the case where it says create invoice. Okay. So this is how it would go. Now you can see that there are a couple of things other as well. For instance, you could have a particular invoice or the form. It depends. HTML forms, who knew? I really like how they've created their website. So if I go down, this is what I see. And the word is HTML forms. Who knew? Really cool. And then there's this. I think we all have been through some sort of page like this, which is called the blue screen of death. So I think there is also one important thing to understand, that if you have any errors, let's say you're submitting a form and you get errors in terms of submitting the form or getting to a particular page, what would happen in that case? So essentially, it also allows us to use something called error boundary, which means that if you are fetching a data that is not available, it essentially provides you the error boundary itself. So let me show you just like this. So you can see that here we have this error boundary, which catches the error if you're trying to do something. And then you can see that it says, oh snap, there was a problem loading the invoice. And it would look something like this. So let's say you tried to execute a call right here and it failed. So you would see this page. So this is really cool because you can see what would happen if only a particular area in your application crashes, because all of these areas are divided into multiple things, right? So that's what it is. Now let's see if we go forward and see what do we have further. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think what we are going to do today is we are going to try to see, do we have a div type here? And I think we can, so it depends on what you want to do right now. We could create this application called Remix Jokes. That is one thing that we could do. There's also a possibility to do the developer blog. I would be really interested in the developer blog using Remix because when I tried it before, it seemed really fast. But what do you think? Should we go with Remix Jokes, the jokes one, or do you think we should go with something else? Maybe the jokes one? What do you think, chat? I'm going to leave it to you. And the fun thing is that if you go through with this with me, then you're probably gonna try this later as well, and that is going to be really easy for you. So should we go with the jokes one or should we go with the developer blog? Jokes, okay. All right. Other says it should be jokes. What about you other folks? Should it be jokes? And let me quickly see the time as well, because I might have to go for Sohar, I think. Let me see. Pum pum pum. Jokes, okay. Where is my app? Okay, so it's in at 11:38. Then how much time do I have before Asar? 12:42. So we have about we have only 50 minutes, or around 50 minutes. All right, so I think we are good for now, but we can definitely do more later. All right, so let's do the jokes app. It's gonna be fun, and we are going to see how this works. And also, if you just go through this, you might not be able to understand everything, especially if you are not experienced enough. So I'm gonna be going through this while explaining what it means, what everything means, how this glues together. When I was looking at the other developers blog thing, I found some issues in the, or some things missing in the documentation itself. I'm probably going to be creating a PR around that. But so far they've done an amazing job. I love it. All right, let's do some coding. And before that, I also want to just go and say youtube.com, see CodeWithAhsan, and I just want to do this. So let me quickly send this as well and send it into my chat. Where are you? Got it. Got it. Yes, there we go. Alrighty. So there we go. And I'm also going to share it on this one. Oops, shouldn't be everyone. All right, cool. Let's get into it. So first of all, we are going to start with, this is the blog one. Let's go to the jokes app. I'm going to close this. Also, this, this, and this. Cool. And I'm also going to be doing one more thing, tiny little thing that I need to do. Yep. Let's quickly download this guy. All right. So I'm going to be uploading this today for the channel. So I do want to create this right now rather than later. Give me 1 second. So let's do this. Select files, or not select files, but actually let's do this. All right, my file is being uploaded. We are good. Thank you for waiting. And sorry about the distraction. All right, let's quickly remove that. And now we're going to be covering all of this. So, so the outline of this project is we are going to generate a new remix project. We are going to use files, routes, the nested variety, that's good, styling, database extraction with SQLite and Prisma, mutations, validation, authentication, error handling, both unexpected and end user cases, SEO with meta tags, JavaScript, resource routes, deployment. Okay. You can follow along with this code locally on. Okay, that sounds good. All right. The only thing that I am thinking about is how do we set up Prisma? Do we need anything for that? Okay, so it's going to be local Prisma. Bruh. Bruh. Brown dude, welcome. How are you doing today? Connect to the database. Then we got data overfetching. Okay. 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 Then we got authentication, SEO with meta tags, resource routes, JavaScript, forms, prefetching, optimistic UI. And then we have some other things, forms, prefetching, deployment, conclusion. I'm just thinking if I would be able to cover it all within the time that we have, because I have to wrap up in about 1 hour. Let's see where we go with this. Tired, just finished up with the production release. Oh, I know that feel. All right, let's get started with this without any further delay so we can wrap this up faster. So I'm going to create npx with the app with this. So let me quickly open my terminal. And here we're going to be going to desktop, work, and it's going to be tutorials. Let's create a new remix. And we are going to name it. I mean, we could use dad jokes as well. But yeah, we cannot add jokes there. Anyways, let's see. So this is a really nice UI of Remix, all shiny. Where would you like to create your app? We're gonna call this. What was the name of the application that they give?
Bruh.
Bruh. Just wanted to drop by and say hi, good night. Awesome. See you later. Bye bye. So let's see. Crow, thank you so much for the follow. So Remix Jokes is going to be the name of this app. So we're gonna quickly go ahead and say Remix Jokes. Then we are going to use the Remix server as far as I remember, because they said for some reason they don't allow. So remixing will be large. The Remix app server is a full featured Node.js space. It's the simplest option, satisfies most people. All right, so what we need to do in this case when we are generating a Remix app is the most easiest one is Remix app server. So we are going to use the same thing because it also allows us to use file system as well. Now, are they using TypeScript? So yes, they are using TypeScript, which is good. So we are going to use TypeScript for this project. Do you want to run npm install? Yes, please. This will install the application for us. And then we have this sort of a structure where we have Remix jokes, readme, some files here, some demos here as well. This is just the default scaffolding of the projects that we get. And hey everyone, again, a soft reminder, if you're watching this video, make sure to leave a like, share this video on your wall, on your Facebook, on your Twitter, tag me in. You can see my socials from running the command socials. And then make sure that others know about this as well, because this is perhaps going to be one of the hottest frameworks to work on in 2022. Perhaps. So when we have this application built, we're gonna quickly go ahead and open this into our editor. So we are going to do code, remix jokes, and this should essentially open this into our own very pretty little editor. So I'm gonna open this. I'm gonna also open the terminal as well. Now let's have a quick look through the files that we have. So first of all, we got routes public. All right. So first of all, we have this app folder. All of our code essentially remains in the app folder. In the app folder, we have this root tsx, which essentially binds everything together. You will notice that it has a couple of things from Remix, but the major highlight of this file is that it has a couple of things, including the apps document. So here you would see that we have this function called app. This is where the entire application resides. So this is your root components, you could say. In React, we have some root components. So these are your root components. The document itself is a combination of title, and also there's a layout inside. This is the error boundary. Sorry. The document should be here. The document essentially is the general HTML. So you would see that this is an HTML, this is a head, body. Inside the body, we pass on the children. And then we also have some other things like live reloading or not. So this glues everything together in terms of sorry, creating the document. Then we have this layout, which essentially has the Remix logo and some other things. So what we are going to do is that I'm going to run npm run. I think the whole command is npm run start or dev. Yeah, exactly. Actually dev. So we're going to run the dev server. But before that runs in, this says something like, okay. So we have the port already busy. So let's stop our server, go back to the original one, and let's try this again. So we're going to run our server. It's going to be at localhost 3000. And once we open this, this is what you see. This is the scaffolded application of Remix out of the box. You see that it has a logo, some routing of home, Remix dogs, and other things as well. This also has some inner demos. For instance, if I go to actions, you see that this is localhost 3000 demos actions. And inside that we have some fun things. So it also has links to other guides, but there's a question. What is more useful when it is broken? What do you think is the answer of this question? Come on, chat. Let me know. What do you think is the answer of this question? What is more useful when it's broken? Does it support server-side rendering? Others, yes, it does. It essentially server-side renders everything first, then it comes to the client side, and then it rehydrates itself. So yes. Come on, chat. What is more useful when it's broken? What do you think? This is probably an easy one. And I'm going to quickly have a look in case I am missing anything. Nope. Filter, redemptions are there as well, and purchases are there as well. But I didn't see any. That is interesting because I didn't see any of the redemptions when I was looking at that. Activity feed. Have you Googled it? But yes, you're right. An egg. Yay! If we said anything apart from the egg, then it would say, sorry, egg is not right. So it shows the data here. Um, but also if you do this, then it goes there. Anyways, looks good. So now that we have this, there are also a couple of things to see. We saw the root JS, we saw the root TSX. Then we have the app routes and public and remix config. So let's have a quick look at those files as well. So essentially, root contains your document and your layout. That is the major thing that you need to know about. Then it also has the remix logo, nothing to worry about here, but this is important. We have two things here. First, the error boundary, and then we got the catch boundary. Now you see that when there is an error for, let's say, fetching something, it essentially would say there was an error, there's an error message, and here developer, you should replace this with what you want users to see, blah, 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 something like this. So we also have something called the catch boundary, which means that if there's a particular case where we get this 401, then it says, oops, you're trying to visit a page that you don't have access to. If there's a 404 status from the server itself, then it says something like this. So these are all configured automatically in the root.tsx, which is really good. Now we have two things, entry.client. So when you run this application, there are two things that's happening. First, server-side rendering. So there's an entry server TSX. You see that this particular server essentially use React DOM server, and then it runs the remix server, and then essentially it runs other things as well. Hey Fahad, how are you doing today? So first, when you run the remix application, it runs everything on the server side, including the calls as well. And once you have done with that, then it goes to the client side and it hydrates it back. So it rehydrates the application on the client side as well, which makes it really fast because from the server side, you already see everything working, right? Then we have the routes, which essentially tell us about any pages that we already have. So routes has index.tsx, and then it has demo. So there are different demo like about, params, voa. There are a couple of things that are happening here. So in this index.tsx, you can see that we have some sort of links like remix docs, React router docs, remix distort. So here you would see them exactly here. You can see that remix docs, React router docs, or remix Discord. This is coming from there. Then I'm also gonna close this guy. Hey Rafiq, how's it going? Long time no see, bro. How have you been, Rafiq? Why don't I see? Why don't I see the activity feed? All right, so let's quickly have another look at the file itself. So we got this, and then we also got demos. So you see the demos here. So they are both being used there. If I go all the way down, you will see that it has this index component. So this is the index.tsx. So there's an index. And inside that, we have all this link. So welcome to Remix. This is the main. Welcome to Remix. This whole part is inside the main. And then we have this uh, aside HTML, which has demos in the app and resources. So demos in the app and resources. It's also going all of this. JSN by doing good. Kind of busy these days. Exams are coming. Okay, I know. That's fine. All right. Apart from this, I think we covered everything else, so we don't need to do anything else. Apart from this, we also have this remix.config, which is important. So you see that in this remix.config, essentially we have all of these things like the browser build directory, public path, dev server port, server build directory, where this is going to be building everything. So all of these things are important in terms of remix, but you don't have to worry about those at all. Cool. And finally, we should run npm run build. So we are going to close our server right now, and then we are going to run npm run build, and let's see what happens. So it's going to generate all the build of whatever we have so far, and you see that it only took 544 milliseconds to build the whole application that we have in production mode, which is amazing. So if I open the build, you see that there's index.js, assets, everything as such. And I think that's pretty much it. Now we are going to run the application. So already we are going to say something like npm start, which will essentially start the server from here, from the disk folder. I believe if you don't have the build folder, it doesn't run it. So if I go to package.json, you will see that it says remix serve build. So it serves the build folder. And if I refresh the page now this is the production build. All right. Let's see if we have any logs on in here. I don't think so. Yeah, we don't. But if I try to look into, let's say, a particular file here, let's say index.ts, we don't see that because there is no index.ts file because this is in production mode. There might be some sort of JS file here. So you see that this is the routes file, which is super minified, and it contains a lot of code as well. Feel free to take a look around to see what you see. All of these strings, this is exactly this. So this is a final minified build file that you can see here. So now that we have run this, let's delete all of the stuff, as they say. So we need to delete app routes and app styles. So let's go ahead and delete those. So we are going to routes and styles. We're going to remove those. And we're also probably going to stop the server. So let's stop the server because we are going to rebuild this from scratch. Now we are going to replace the app root tsx with this. So I'm going to copy this all, and I'm going to go to app.root.tsx, where we had a lot of things, including the document, including the layout. So I'm going to replace all of this with this simple function, which has a simple HTML. It has a head and is a meta tag, and then there's a body that says blah blah blah. Okay, so let's save this, and then we are going to run npm start essentially, or npm run dev. So we can see this working. So if I refresh now, you see that we see hello world. Super simple, super clean. And now if we change anything in the file, this should also reflect. So let's say hello world CWA. If I save this, you see that it reloaded itself. Should I learn React before Remix? It will help you, but you don't essentially need to learn React. You can do this along the way, but if you know it beforehand, that can help you. All right, I hope that makes sense. So now that we have this set up, let's see what are the next instructions. So your app directory should now look like this: app client server root tsx. I think this is exactly what it looks like, only 3 files. Now we're going to go forward. The first thing that we want to do is get our routing structure set up. Here are the routes our app is going to have. So we're going to have these routes: jokes, joke ID, jokes new, and login. These are the routes that we can create. You can programmatically create routes via remix config, but the more common way to create route is through the file system. This is called file-based routing. Okay. Each file we put in the app routes directory is called a route module, and following the route file name convention. Okay, we can create the routing URL structure we're looking for. Remix uses React, so we know about that. So what we are going to do now is we are going to create a new file called app.route.index.tsx. So let's do this. So first we are going to create a folder inside. We are going to call this routes, and inside we will create a file called index.tsx. I'm already learning Next.js and now see another cool framework. Yes, I think I'm on the same boat, but it doesn't mean that you should stop learning Next. This is just an additional thing that you can get benefit from. So it doesn't mean that we should switch from Next to here. It's essentially just another framework. So we got the route index file. Now the React router supports nested routing, which means that we can use an outlet inside a page to do something else. Now this is really important concept. Imagine that you have an application, and right now we don't see it. How do I do that? Let's say. So if we go to remix.run, let me actually show you what I mean by that. So let's have a look at this guy here. And I'm also going to change the color of my pin. Pin. Let's do this and let's do this. So if this is your entire application, then this whole thing, which is outside, this is a block of content, right? Then this guy here, I mean, apart from the side label, this is essentially a nested route in which we have this heading, this list, and whatnot. Then inside this, we have two different things. We got the list itself, and then we got the sales. These two are essentially one thing, but this thing here, this is a nested route as well. So we have a lot of distinction between these three things because we are using nested routes. And the way you define your nested routes in Remix is some sort of like this. So I'm gonna actually go back to my, what happened? Okay, yeah, there we go. So if we talk about nested route in Remix, you get a nested route by placing this outlet inside it. So you can see that at the top level, we have this outlet, which is going to be printed here instead of the hello world. So we are going to use that. So let's go to our root tsx, which is this file. And then we are going to use the outlet here just below here. Okay. And then we are going to import the outlet right from here. Save this. Now, if I refresh, let's see what happens. So on 3000, localhost 3000, if I refresh, you see hello index route. Previously, it was not showing anything. Did you notice? If I remove this outlet, let's see what would happen. So if I refresh this, you don't see anything, right? Because there's no outlet being used here. But when we add this outlet, it essentially goes to the routes folder automatically. And then it says here, let's see where we have defined the routes itself. Let's see, assert.json, and we should be able to only see this inside rather the remix.config. So we have app here. We do have the root tsx here. So that means Remix already handles that behind the scenes. Okay, that makes sense. So what we see right now is this hello index route. Now let's see what are the next instructions. So here you will see that this will watch your file system for changes, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Now we are going to create the jokes route, and we are going to essentially copy all of this code. So we are going to create another route using app routes jokes.tsx. So you can do it by doing something like this. Instead of using here, we can quickly create it like this: touch app routes jokes.tsx. If you are using a Linux subsystem or bash, it essentially creates the file for you just like this, and then you can paste the code. Now notice that this jokes route itself has a heading, it has a main, and then it has a routing outlet or an outlet inside. This is also important to understand. In the in the root.tsx, we have a body. Inside the body, we have outlet, which means everything inside this body is switchable. But when we go to index.js, this has no other outlet, which means that if we go to localhost 3000, it will just say hello index route. But if we go to jokes, then we will see this h1, but we will also see another main with an outlet, which means that this heading is going to be there, but this outlet can have different kind of content inside it. So I'm going to just save this and show you once we go to jokes. So if I now go to jokes, you see that, hey, this is being loaded now. And if I inspect this, you will see something like this. So it has a jokes main, but where did the outlet go? That's interesting. The outlet will only be used to show something inside if there is something inside. Otherwise, it won't do anything. It will not even exist on the route. Okay. You can see that inside the body, we got directly this div, this joke, and this main. So that is really cool. Now let's see what do we have next. So we are going to create another file, jokes index.tsx, that we are going to use. So we are going to copy this. We are going to create this file. So we are going to say jokes/index.tsx. Now notice that there is a routes folder inside we have jokes. If we want to have nested routes inside jokes, which is using here, which is the outlet, we know that we want nested routes. So we are going to use the same name for a folder here. So we are going to create a folder called jokes, and then inside we are going to have an index.tsx. So here you will see that inside routes, Did I create? Okay. So it should be jokes. Okay, so we don't have the jokes folder because we need to do mkdir app routes jokes. So we create this folder first. You can see that there's a folder now. And now we can create this file inside. So this is index.tsx. And now if I save this, let's see what happens. So if I save this and go back to the app, now you see it's a null here. All right. So if I refresh now, you see that we get the heading, but now inside the main where we have the outlet, we show the content from the jokes slash index a file. Here is a random joke, blah, blah, blah. I was wondering why Frisbee was getting bigger than it hit me. Okay, awesome. So now you see that the whole structure of the app looks like we have the root. Inside the outlet, we are running the jokes where we have this heading. And then inside this outlet, we get this jokes slash index.js. This is a whole hierarchical thing that you can use to create your applications as you would want it. Now let's move forward. Now if you refresh jokes, you'll see the content, blah, blah, blah. That is fine. We already did that. And notice that each of those route modules is only concerned with their part of the URL. Neat. Yes. Let's handle the jokes slash new route. So that means we are also going to create a new file and we are going to paste this code. So here we are going to say jokes and we are going to say new.tsx. All right. And now in this new file, we are going to paste this. Now notice this is plain HTML CSS. But what's more important is that this is a form which has a method post. It has a button which has a type submit, which means that clicking this button should submit this form as a post request. Then it has some labels and it has inputs, but each input has a name. This property name is important when you're submitting the form because you want to know what is this input. Is it the name or the address or the content, whatever, right? Once you have these things figured out, it should look something like this. So if I go to remix and if I go to jokes slash new, you see that we get this. Add your own hilarious joke, name, content, add. So if I do test, and if I hit add, then what happens? You can see that cannot read property route of undefined blah, 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 because we don't have the handlers right now. So we are going to look at that in a bit, I believe. So once we have this, now we need to parameterize the routes itself. You would also notice one thing. So when we do this, yeah. All right. So now we need to parameterize the routes, which means that when we get a particular joke, let's say we have a list of jokes that the person can add. So when you add a lot of jokes, that would mean that you can also open one joke out of it. For instance, here you can see that. So now going to jokes, anything should display whatever you just created. So what should happen is that you need to parameterize a route in this way where you say jokes slash joke ID. Right now we go to jokes slash new, but here it could be something like my joke ID or whatever. So when you go there, you should be able to see only that particular joke that you have. So how do we make that? We need to create a route with this dollar sign. This is important. This essentially parameterizes the URL of this particular route, which means that now you can see app route jokes ID. So I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to create this file as well. So we are going to say something like, let's see, we're going to call this touch here. So we are going to say touch app routes joke. Then we are going to use the slash sign dollar and then joke id.tsx. Was that the name or jokes ID? It's joke id.tsx, right? Yes. So joke id.tsx. So if we create this file now, you see that we create a file with $joke id.tsx and then we can fetch this joke id from here very easily. So now that we have this, we can quickly go and paste this code that we have gotten. So this is the code. Now you see that this is a particular joke route and we do have some content here. Here's your hilarious joke, blah, blah, blah. This is a particular joke. In this new, we have a form that shows a joke. In the index, there's a random joke. So there are 3 different routes. So let's see. So if we go to just jokes, we see a random joke. If we go to jokes slash new, we see the form. But if we go a particular URL, let's say my joke ID, you see here is your hilarious joke. Now this is a different route which fetches us whatever we have here in this function. Okay, jokes, sorry, not this one, but joke route, this one. Now that we have this, let's move to the next step.
styling, which is really important. So from the beginning of the styling of the web, we use link. Yes, yes, I know. Here, what we are going to do is we are starting off by styling the home page index.route. So this app styles index CSS, we are going to just add this. So we are going to go app, and we should have a folder called styles, and we should have a file called index.css. All right, we save this, we go back to our code, and we see if anything is working and if I've made any mistake. So we have app styles index.css. Now update the routes.index.tsx to import that CSS file, because we have to import this now. And this is an important concept to understand as well. And this is going inside the root file, right? Yeah, exactly. App routes index.tsx. So here in the index.tsx, where it says hello index route, we need to do this. In Remix, it's really important that you export a constant that is called links, which essentially is an array of style sheets. So imagine your index.html, which usually has a lot of link tags in the HTML. In Remix, you essentially have an array. And you can see that here the link says it's a style sheet, or the rel says it's style sheet, and the href is this styles URL. So we are importing the styles index.css, and then we are passing this into this array. This is important. Once you return this, or once you export this content, this links constant, you essentially add that automatically to this index route. That is how you apply styling to a particular component or a page in Remix. So now if I go back to here and try to go to index, we got the index route here. Let me see if I'm missing anything. So we do app routes CSX, and then our beautiful styles are not applied. You might be disappointed. Yes, I am. Well, you may recall in the app rook XML, the ones rendering everything about our app from HTML to HTML. That means if something doesn't show up in there, it's not going to show up at all. Yes. So that means we need to have these links that we are exporting from this file to essentially end up in our HTML. So Remix makes it easy for us by providing the convenience links component. So what we need to do is to go and use this links component and then add it to the HTML. Super neat, or the head tag. So we need to go to root tsx. We're going to import links, and all we need to do is just add in the head this links tag. And Remix automatically pulls everything from this link object to right here, or in any component as well. So now if I go and see, ooh, there we go. You can see that now our styles are being applied. Super cool. Now let's move forward. But I want to call out something important and exciting. You know the CSS we wrote styles body element. What would you expect to happen on jokes route? Yes, exactly. So the thing is that since we are only importing or exporting that CSS from index, it might not go to the jokes. So the jokes route doesn't have any styling, which means that we might want to see if there's a global way of styling, or if every file has to export anything. So here it says, what is this? Aren't the CSS applied? Did the body get removed or something? The thing is that everything is there except the link tag. So if I open this now versus previous page, if I open the elements, they say that the link tag should be here. So here in the head, we have this style, this link tag. So you can see that we have this CSS here. But if I go to the jokes page and go to head, then you don't see that link tag at all. So that is not there. Now the thing is that that is pretty much all there is to styling. The rest is just writing the CSS, and we have some other things as well. For instance, if you want, simply copy the styles from below. So what we do is we create all of these files, app style global.css. So we are going to create those files. Touch app styles globals. Is it global or globals? Global.css. So we do this. We go inside the global.css and import this. Then we also have other files. So let's quickly copy those as well. Global large.css. So we do this large.css, and then we paste this code. So it's a lot of copy pasta right now. So it's one for medium. So global medium. Oops, oops, oops. No. I think it pasted all my CSS there. Sad, sad. So let's do this. Global medium.css, save. Then we also got app styles index.css. I think we already copied this, but let's quickly do that as well. So app styles index.css, I'm going to post this. And then we got a couple of jokes.css. So we are going to paste this as well. So it's going to be a jokes.css. And here we can paste this guy. So now that we have copy pasted all of the code, also download the font and license, put them into public fonts Balu. So we are going to do that as well. Did we also download the license? No, we didn't. Okay, so we need to add the folder itself. So it's going to be inside the folder public fonts Balu. All right. So we are going to go to here, go to public, create a folder called fonts, and create a folder called Balu. And we're going to create a file here called license.txt and then paste the license here. We also need to open this folder and also our Chrome tab and copy this guy, which is inside the folder. So we cut this guy, come back here, and we paste it here. All right. Now that we have that, while you're downloading asset, you may also download the social image and put it in public social PNG. Okay. So we are also going to save this image into let's see, desktop, work, tutorials, remix, jokes, and they're public. And the folder that they called was socials. Or maybe not. Let's just save this here and quickly see if that's what they meant. So they meant that we need to add this into public social PNG. Yeah, we put it right way. Add the links export to app route tsx and route app route jokes tsx to bring some CSS to make the page nice. Note, each will have its own CSS file. You can look at the CSS and add some structure. Cronus, hey, how's it going? Welcome, welcome. Welcome, Raiders. How are you doing today? So we're going to be importing the root tsx inside. So we're going to go to our app, root tsx. We're going to add this guy from remix as well. Then let's see what we have. So we have remix. Oops. Then we're going to have this. Then we also import a couple of style files here. Just like this. So we import all of these style files. Then we go back and add our const link function to add all of these style sheets into remix. As I mentioned earlier, when you have to import styles into a particular component like this root component, where all the global styles are going to be added, in remix, you import the CSS file. And after that, you essentially use the links export constant and add the rel style sheet and the file itself. Now you also see that the global medium style sheet is also using a media query, which is super cool here because you can specify this style sheet is only going to be available when the minimum width is 640. Similarly, you can see that the global large style is also going to be used when the minimum width is 1024. So that's why things would look different in different cases. So if I now go to my app, which is this, you can see that the background is now applied to every page. If I go to new, you can see that the styles are here as well. And if I go to the home page, you can see that it's here as well, right? So for different cases, we have different results, and that's what is going on. Now let's go and do some more magic here on the jokes tsx. So we need to import the links function and export the links file here as well. So let's go to app routes jokes.tsx. And this is the file jokes.tsx, and we are going to import the link function here. Then we are also going to go ahead and use our Lala says, want to become famous? Buy followers. No, thanks. Don't need it. Go away. So we're going to use this jokes.css, and then we do this links function. Are we missing anything else? No, we are not. So we're going to go to our jokes. Hebner Felix also coming with the same thing. What the hell? What the hell are you doing, folks? Block list. Chakraborty. Shiram. Looks like there are bots in the chat. If there are bots in the chat, am I not already famous then? All right. So I'm gonna look into if I missed anything. So we're gonna go into here. We're going to add the link function, export the style sheet for the joke CSS, and now let's have a look at the jokes themselves. So here is the jokes page. Then we have the jokes new, and then we have, let's say, a new joke, my joke ID. And now you see that we got almost everything covered here. Cool, cool, cool. Now what's missing? Let me see. As we work through the rest of the tutorial, you may want to check the class names in the CSS file so you can take full advantage of it. Quick note about CSS, a lot of you folks might be using runtime libraries for CSS like style components. While you can use those with Remix, we'd like to encourage you to look into more traditional approaches to CSS. Okay, that means uh, Remix users are very happy with Tailwind, and we recommend this approach, which means that Remix can be used along that. We all love Spot. Yes, we do. All right, folks. I'm quickly gonna look into one thing really quick, and that is I need to know if my styles are accurate because this looks okay, although it doesn't look okay. So I'm gonna quickly see if I've missed anything. So we got a root TSX, we got the files global medium CSS, global large CSS. The file names that I have given into the styles is global large, global medium, global.css, jokes.css, and inside the jokes page, we do import jokes.css. Okay, so everything looks good to me. Everything looks good to me. Adarsh, thank you so much for the follow. How are you doing? Did you come from YouTube to Twitch? That's super cool. So we have app routes jokes.tsx. We're gonna go down and now, but making Butspot sad. Let's also add a link to the jokes from the homepage and follow some of the class names in the CSS to make the homepage look nice, which means that now they're doing some changes in the index.tsx. Maybe this is what I'm missing. So index.tsx is gonna have this. So if I go back to the app now look at it. Ooh, this looks good. Remix jokes, read jokes. So if I go to read jokes, it goes to the jokes page. Then if I go to jokes/new, then we have something else. And then it goes on and on and on. Mu. I meant to do new, but it did mu. All right. Now at least the home page, that looks super cool. Awesome, awesome. So now that we have this, as we work through blah blah blah, then the most real applications blah blah blah, Firebase, Superbase, Prisma, Schema, blah blah blah. Then we have tutorial. We're going to use our own SQLite database, essentially a database that lives in file on your computer. So we can use Prisma and whatnot. So let's do this. So we're going to use Prisma for creating a new database using SQLite. Then we are also going to use Prisma client to install that. How many platforms are you streaming on right now? I think 4. And then we are going to use npm install Prisma client. Then we need to initiate a project with Prisma using SQLite just like this. So let's do that. So we are running npm install or npx Prisma init. Data source provider is SQLite. So when we do this, this creates something for us actually. So let's see. And I think at this point we should probably install Git or add Git to our project because we are losing track of what we are doing so far. Set the database URL in the env file to point to your existing database. If your database has no tables yet, read this. Run Prisma DB pull to turn your database schema into Prisma schema. Run Prisma generate to generate Prisma client. You can then start querying your database. Okay. So we're going to do git status, which will give us an error because this is not a Git repository. We're going to do git init. Then we're going to do git add all. And then we are going to git commit initial commit, and then we can also say initial UI installed Prisma client, Prisma packages, let's say. So we can keep track of what do we change. Okay, that was many. Yes it is. Yes it is, sir. So now what we need to do is that we got Prisma initialized. We can start modeling our application. Because there is not a Prisma tutorial, I'll just hand out that you can read more about blah blah blah. Okay, that makes sense. So we are going to create a folder called Prisma, and we are going to create schema.prisma. So let's quickly do that. So we are going to say touch or mkdir, or we already have a Prisma folder here. Okay, schema.prisma is already here. So what it does right now is that a couple of things. We can also install the .prisma file marketplace. So let's add an extension for Prisma. This one has 175,000 installs. So let's do that. Probably the most installs right now. And now we got syntax highlighting. Yay! So can you make a Git tutorial on YouTube someday? Yes, definitely. What do you want to learn about Git? The basics, the cheat sheet. What else? I can add that to my list. Now in the Prisma schema, you see that we have the SQLite database. We will have a database URL that we'll define in the env file. Then we have this joke model which has ID, created at, update at, name, and content. And all of these are using Prisma schema. Now we are going to say npx prisma db push. This will give you this output, which means that it will create a client for us, and they are going to add this to this file. Okay, okay. Did I miss anything? Did I miss the env variable? The Prisma team has built a Prisma extension. I think I already installed this one. Yeah, this is the one that I installed automatically. Okay. Let me see. So we got this. All we need to run is npx schema push. Let's do that. This essentially should use our model and do something. So environment variable loaded from .env. Then you can see that it says SQLite database devdb created at file this. Your database is now in sync with your schema, done in this, generated Prisma client, and added to this. Very good. Let me see what changed. We got a dev.db. We got a schema.prisma. These are the only two things that happened. How to create repos and commit, and of course sign in. Sign in and sign out. Arthur, go away. Sad, Arthur. And alert boards as well. Please go away. Twitch is more rewarding. I like it here. That's cool. It is. I mean, at least for viewers, I think Twitch is really good. For content creators, it is a debate that's going on right now that maybe YouTube is better. But yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on this. All right, I think so. It's 24 and 42. I think I'm gonna go and have a 5-minute break. So I have to pray Zohar, and I'm gonna come back in about 5 minutes, and then we are going to continue from here. Okay? I have some problems to log in. You can Google the tutorials of logging in already, I think. But yeah, let me come back, and whenever you say Google, it opens it. Sad. So I'm gonna quickly go and come back in 5 minutes. Be right back, everyone. Hello, hello. Alrighty, back. Let's continue the work that we were doing. So we're gonna look into the database side now, and then also the rest of the work, so we can finish the tutorial. So where were we? We just created the database, and then we pushed it, so it got synced with the dev.db. What else? Now we are going to do this command will did a few things. For once it created a database, then it also pushed the necessary changes to a database to match the schema. All right. Finally, it generated the Prisma's TypeScript type so we can get stellar autocomplete. Okay. So one of the things that we need to do is to add these two things into our files. So we're going to go into our code, which is this, and inside the git ignore file, we are going to add these two things as well, prisma dev.db and env. So this is not going to be shown exactly now. I'm not really sure if we have worked with the env file, but I think we are going to create that. Where is our env file? Let's see, .env. So if your database has no tables yet, okay, okay, okay. We will also want to add the env file to get ignored as mentioned. Seekers, okay, that's fine. If your database gets messed up, you can always delete the Prisma dev.db and run npxdb. Okay, to push again if we mess up our database. That sounds good. So let's talk about the seed data. So we have the Prisma seed.ts that we can create. I didn't want to do that. So we can create a file inside the Prisma folder. What are you building? Lasif, come on. We are building the jokes application. Did you join late? I thought you already knew what we are building. No? Seed.ts. So we have this now. We're using the Prisma client. We create a new database. Then we call the seed method automatically, which uses promise.all getJokes.map. So it takes all of these jokes and then it adds them by using db.joke.create, and then the data is joke. Okay, so we are saying that let's see, this data has a name and content. Okay, so it's going to be data, name, and content when we create this. Okay, let's see. Once we have done with this, feel free to add your own jokes if you like. That's fine. That's fine, Lasif, no problem. So now we just need to run this file. We wrote in TypeScript to get type safety. This is much more useful as our app data model now grow in complexity. So we'll need a way to run it. So we are going to add ESBuild registers as a def dependency. So let's add that really quick. What does this do? Now database has those jokes in it, no joke. But if we don't want to remember to run that script in time, the database, luckily we don't have to. Okay, so what we do in the package JSON is we can add the seed data, so we don't have an empty database. So if we add this particular line into our package JSON, what this does is that it will run this prisma seed.ts file, okay, and then this seed would create all of this data. Is Prisma a database? Prisma is a package that connects with the database. Prisma allows you to create a client that you can use in your JavaScript file to create records in the database. So here you can see that we get a new database using Prisma client, and then we can do database queries from our JavaScript file or the TypeScript file, just like we would use JavaScript. So here we are saying that, hey, take this array, take all of the objects from here, and for each object, create an entry in the database inside the jokes table. So that's what it is doing right now. Okay. So now that we have this, now we need to connect to the database. One last thing we need to do is to connect to a database in our app. We do this at the top of the Prisma TS file. So exactly, we are doing this. This works just fine, but the problem is during development, we don't want to close down and completely restart the server every time we make a server-side change. So the remix run serve actually rebuilds our code and requires it brand new. The problem here is that every time we make a code change, we'll make a new connection to the database and eventually run out of connections. This is such a common problem with database accessing apps that Prisma has warning for it. Warning, Prisma clients are already running. Okay. That is interesting. We don't have that at least now, but I think we are good, at least for now. So what we'll do is that we'll run npm run dev. And then whenever we make a change, it will essentially do that for us. Built in this, server is started, localhost 3000. That is good. That is good. Then we copy this to a new file called dbserver.ts. So we are going to create a new file, app utils dbserver.ts. So let's go and create an app. We're going to create a folder called utils. And then we are going to create a file called dbserver.ts and paste this here. So let's quickly see this. db.server.ts. So it's db.server.ts. It generates a Prisma client. My phone is coming in next week. Yay! Which one are you getting? You were getting an iPhone, right? Lasif. Which one? So I think this file, what it does is that it will check if there is already a Prisma client, then it will probably share that. Otherwise, it will not. So it says, hey, if the environment is production, then we create a new Prisma client and we connect with that. Otherwise, we will check if we don't have a global database, then we create it and we connect with it. Otherwise, we just return the global database. So it makes sure that we are not generating new connections for everyone. Oh yeah, it was iPhone 11. Now I got it. Cool. So now that we have this file, let's see. I will leave the analysis of this code exercise for the reader because again, it has nothing to do with remix. Yeah, I know. Read from the database in the remix loader. So now that we have this, we need to all right, let's see. So this is too much. We might not be able to finish it, but yeah, let's see. So read from the database in the remix loader, which means that we are going to go to the file called app_routes_jokes.tsx. And inside here, we should have the jokes created. So we are going to, this is just an example, no need to copy paste this. Okay. So we don't need to copy paste. So here's a quick example. So we have a loader function, then we use user from Prisma client, then we use a db, and then we essentially use loader data, loader function, use stat, return the data, then we get the data inside using user loader data, and then we do this. Yeah, I know about this one. Does that give you a good idea? Do here, you can, okay, that's fine. So update the app route jokes tsx route module to load jokes from our database and render a link of the jokes. So here is what we are going to copy paste. So we are going to copy this jokes.tsx. We're going to go back to our code. We're going to go and close all of these things that we don't need. 128 GB lol. Okay, sounds great. So we're going to go to our route jokes.tsx. And inside here, we are going to import this, the link outlet. I'm going to remove this guy from here. So we are importing the DB. That's the first thing. Then we are adding a type for the loader data. This is super important because otherwise TypeScript keeps crying. So the loader data in this particular page is going to be jokes list item, which is going to be an array of ID string and name string. Then we are going to create a loader function, and this is same for all remix components per se. You will see that a loader function essentially, and I think we also need to import it from here. So loader, don't we, interesting. This loader function essentially should have been imported from the top. Exactly. Yeah, but this is not highlighted. This is not highlighted because I think you cannot highlight a particular chunk from the tool that they're using. Hype style v1 is coming next month. That is super cool. That is super cool. I'm looking forward to it. So what we do is that we say db.joke.findMany and it returns the data. Inside here, And we then can use that here. So we go into our component, the jokes route, we get the data using the use loader data. Then we go downwards and then we do data.jokes_list_item.map. So inside the UL, what? Am I in the wrong file? Jokes.tsx, jokes.tsx, export default function. This is essentially, so we all, now then they missed this part where I have to copy everything from here, not just the lines. So it is going to be something like this. So let's save this and let's see the jokes. Here are few more jokes to check out. Let me see. So right now there is nothing in the database. Is that the case? File deleted, rebuilding, app routes, jokes.tsx, file change, jokes.tsx. So this db server.ts, we already have this. When we run this, it goes here, but this db server.js, it's not being used anywhere else. Okay. In the index.tsx, we don't have it. In the utils, we are creating this. Okay. Okie dokie. Then we got the seed tsx. This should run and add all the items. So I'm gonna actually put a console.log here, test or lay seed working. So I'm gonna put this here and then I'm going to just add npm run dev. And now it says EDDR in use. Remix app in development mode 8002. So that means we are not running the server. So npx kill port 8002. So that's killed. Now let's see if we run npm run dev. So server started on localhost 3000. Then if we go and refresh now, we do get the joke, but we don't see the seed working. Why don't we get the seed working? That is interesting. Prisma seed. Our database is not working definitely, or maybe we are missing. So they say what we have with that now. So this is what should have been there, but it's not. So I have definitely missed something. db from util server, db.joke, data. Then we got this list. That is fine as well. Now we have got this. seed.ts. We need to go to seed.ts and see if we have missed anything. We have not. 9 stars so far. Sorry for the random info. That's fine. That's fine. So the seed is not definitely working. So we need to see what's wrong. But you don't want to have to remember that script time. I reset to. Whenever we reset the database, Prisma will call our seeding as well. Ooh, okay. Okay. If a database, so we need to run this again. npx db push again. Right? I think that's what we need to do. So let's run this. So it ran this, loaded from Prisma, pushed to DB, generated Prisma client. And if you run npm run dev, oh, we already have this server running. We gotta have to click or clean the port as well. Looks like sometimes. So now that we have this, would it now show us the data? No, our data is not being fetched. So let's see. I'm gonna go to our file where we have jokes.ts. Am I still running the start command? No, we are running the dev command. So the dev command should essentially run the tsx file, right? So I'm gonna empty cache and hard reload. And now let's check routes dot. Interesting. Let's see. So we got build assets. We got some CSS files. We got jokes. We got font. Where is our file though? .js. InPage.js, content.js, viewer, content script, color picker, browser polyfill. Where is our index.js? Routes.js. Is this okay or is this weird? Let's see. So we got our HTML here. We should have our files as well. Reloading window, blah blah blah. Get a random joke. We're definitely missing something. Let me see. We missed something. So we did a Prisma init, then we added this, then we added this, then we did npx Prisma push. This will give us an output, that is fine. Then we used a couple of things that had Prisma dev tv to our git ignore, so we don't push that. We also want to add the env file, but we don't really have the env file here. I'm gonna go to the top and see if we can have a look at the GitHub of this. It should have the GitHub link. Or maybe not. Anyways, let's see. So we go from this, we export db, we run from the remix loader. We could also run the command ourselves, to be honest. So let's see. If I do package.json, if I go to Prisma, and if I run seed, I could actually run all of this. Seed working. So if I run the dev now, and I need to kill the port as well again. Do you like Vue.js? I have never used Vue.js so far, unfortunately. So now if I refresh, there we go. We got the data. For some reason, our seed didn't work. So if I click trees, it shows the trees joke. If I click frisbee, it shows the frisbee one. Read worker. Okay, so for every ID, it right now shows the same thing. But if you don't use it, you only see the jokes, right? Here's a random joke. And then if you click something, you see a particular joke. Cool, interesting. So now that we have this, let's move forward. So we get the data, as we said, from the utils DB. We show the jokes from there. And here is what it looks like. Data overfetching. I want to call out something specific in my solution. Here is my loader. So here you have joke list item, joke find many, take 5, then select ID true, name true, order by created at DESC. Where are we doing this exactly? Nowhere. Notice that all I need for this page is a joke ID and name. I don't need to bother getting the content. I'm also limiting the content of 5 items ordering by creation date so we can get the latest joke. So with Prisma, I can change my query to be exactly what I need and avoid seeding too much data into the client. Okay. It makes the app faster and more responsive for my users. Okay, that makes sense. So I'm gonna update my find many to be specific. So we're gonna go to jokes.tsx and find many should have this new object where we say take 5, select only ID and true, order by created date, DESC, so the latest ones. So if I refresh now, you only see 5, which is good. Cool. And now we're going to go to do something else. So wrap up the database queries. We're going to go to the jokes ID and export this log here. Good morning, Dalt Breezy. Hey, how's it going? How are you? How are you? How are you? So we're going to go to jokes, joke id.tsx. And inside here, we're going to be exporting the loader function. You get joke from Prisma. So we are going to actually copy some code from the jokes tsx. We need a loader function. Here, we're going to import this. Then we got the joke ID here. So we are going to get this const joke equals to this. So we're going to actually get joke ID from here. And we can simply say const joke ID equals to params. Okay. We also need to import the DB itself. So we are going to import the DB. Okay. Let's see what do we have else. So the loader data is also going to be a type here. The ID params is not. We got this as a loader function. We do use find unique. We do have a joke here. When we run the data from here, we run it like this. We also need to mention the loader data here. So the loader data is going to be of type array string, or not array, but essentially this. And let's call this joke item. Joke. Actually, let's call this joke. We're going to call this joke data. And then we return this joke data from here. Interesting. What do we have here that is different from there? So we got this async. We get find many. Okay. So this could be either this or null. Null is not assignable to the type loader data. Oh, okay. So it's going to be either loader data or null. And this is now property joke is missing in type. Now this joke could be of type null, right? So I can use something like this. But that would mean that this joke data, I'm thinking now. No, it's going to be of type this. And then we return this. And then we use the loader data later on in the file, just like this. We need to import this from Remix. And the only thing that I'm seeing is this. Params string is not assignable to type string. The expected types come from property ID, which is declared on type join where. Oh, so we are going to use probably, let's say, if not params.id, then we're going to do return or return null in that case. So we are either going to get this jokes data, and this is using ID joke ID. Joke ID is supposed to be params.id. And now we are good. I was lost. In Denmark, we have lots of snow because we have a snowstorm a couple of days ago. In Sweden, we have a lot of snow now. A lot of snow, to be honest. It's super cold. I think it's -8 right here, right now. What about you folks? What is the temperature there? So when we get this data that is supposed to be joke itself, and then it should give us, here's a hilarious joke, and here we should be able to say something like data, or we could call this actually joke itself. So it's going to be of type joke. and then we can say joke.content. Why is it called joke.joke? This loader data is of gonna be, I'm missing something. Let's see. So when we return this data, that is going to be of jokes list item. Oh, okay. All right. Got it. Data. It's gonna be data.joke dot content. One more thing that we need to do is also to have something called content string, and then we should be able to see that content as well. Object is possibly null data.joke.content. So if that's the case, then we load that. Otherwise, it should be an error, maybe. I don't know. We're going to see. So if I refresh this now, if I click trees, here is your hilarious joke, and that failed miserably. So we need to see the joke ID. We get the joke ID, then we get this. Now, we get it by the ID itself, where the ID is joke ID. So this should essentially return something. Let's see. We also should log joke data. Joke data. So let's save this. Let's refresh this. And now we should have a joke ID, which is coming exactly here in the params. We have joke ID here. So it's going to be params.joke ID, or we could take joke ID out of the params. And then we use the joke ID, and then we return the data. Now it should be good. Now you see we got the joke data here. And if I refresh now, like this, we don't see anything. Why don't we see anything? Because we do have the joke data that we show here, and then we have the content here. So when we come inside here, what kind of data do we get? So console.log data. So we save this, we see data has ID, blah, blah, blah. And give me 1 second. I need to get my camera. You got a -1. What is 1? 1 minus 1 what? All right, let's see. I'm going to add this real quick. And let's fix this. Cool, we're good. All right, so the thing is that this jokes data that we are returning back, when we were returning from here, it was a list which has a jokes list item, and then okay, now I get it. So if we use the same syntax here, it's going to be something like this. So we do something like this: const data, loader data, and inside that we could have some sort of like joke here. We don't need to use this at all. And we need to do this. So we, instead of jokes, we're going to do something like this. We do this, and then all we need to do is return the data, right? And now this makes it much more cleaner. So we get the data here, we get the data joke content, and that should be good. Now you see the data is being here. So particular joke that we are writing here is getting the information. What did I change? I essentially changed the contract that we have. I'm gonna remove this links function from here. So what I've done here is that I've just said that, hey, first of all, get the ID, get the joke ID from the params. So from the params up top, we get the joke ID. Then we essentially do a query of finding unique using by ID, using the joke ID. Then we return an object, a whole object that contains a property called joke, and we return the whole object data. And then we can access that using data.joke.content, and that should be good. Do we need exactly this? Maybe we don't even need this, or do we? Object is possibly null. Yeah, could be the case. All right, so let's save this now. But if we don't, that's going to be interesting. We're going to have a look at that in a bit. So they do have the code here, which is importing joke from the Prisma client. That's what I'm missing maybe. So I should have done something like this. Importing type joke from Prisma client. Then we got the DB. Then we got the loader data. Okay, this is much simpler than what I was doing. So loader data is going to be joke and joke. Then I need to just use this whole loader function. So I'll do this, the loader function itself. What is changed from here? We just query find unique the joke itself. Then we check if there's no joke, then we say joke not found. Otherwise, we send loader data joke and return the data. It's much cleaner than what I was doing. And then we have the joke route where we just say this and this. Okay, here's your hilarious joke and this. Okay. So I'm going to go inside this div and just paste this. And now we don't need to import this. We also need to import this from Remix. Let's see. So if I now show this, okay. So we have this, then we have road worker permanent link, which is this. Okay. So if I do click here, elevator permalink, dinner permalink, okay. Read worker. So it's currently giving me the entire URL. Data.joke.name. Have you created the VIP channel spawn thing? No, not yet. Maybe on Wednesday. Remind me on Wednesday. I'm going to create it. So now that we have this, let's see. We'll handle the case where someone tries to access a joke that doesn't exist in this database in the next section. So what we are going to do is that here's how you are going to get a random joke from Prisma. So we go to jokes.index and then we get random jokes from there. So we go to our jokes.tsx and we change our loader function by first importing the DB and joke from there. So we're going to go to top and then import the type from there. We're also going to remove this. Is this the right file? Wait, it's routes jokes index.tsx. So it's routes jokes. It's a different file. Dude. It's routes index.js. And here we are going to add a couple of things. We're also going to add loader function and use loader and link. So we are going to go ahead here, then use these. And then we are going to add this const data and then the return statements as well. So we're going to go ahead into jokes index route and then do this. So const data, and then we are fetching a lot of things from there. Where is the loader function itself? There's the loader function. So this should be looking like this. So it will go ahead and first it will count how many jokes are there. Then it says random row number mat.floor. It takes a particular row, then gets that one using a skip random row number. Okay. And then it shows it. Okay, that's fine. So we're going to do this, save this, and go back to Remix, refresh. And if I go back to our jokes page, which is this now, we'll be right back. Sure, no problem. So here's a random joke. Now you see it's a random joke. If I refresh, there's a random joke, random joke, random joke, random joke. And every link here that we show has a permanent link. So if I go to the jokes route in the beginning, I can click here and it takes me to the permanent page of the joke. Now this is going to always fetch the same joke, but the home page always has a different joke. So that is cool. Okay, let's move forward quickly. So now that we have this, our jokes are random. Now we've got ourselves a jokes new route button, but that form doesn't do anything. Yes, let's wire it up. So we are doing a post method. It's important to make sure that it has it. Okay. Then we are going to use new task and then we are just going to run this whole function. So we are going to go to the new TSX and we are going to replace all of this with this. Now let's see what's happening. We have this heading. We got this post, name, content, submit is exactly probably the same thing. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. So not much here, just a form. What if I told you could make that form work with a single export to a route module? Well, you can. It's the action function export. Read up on that a bit. And here's the Prisma code you'll need. So we do db-joke.create and name and content, and that would create it for us. So here we're going to go and import a bunch of files. So let's import those files. Notice that we are importing action function from Remix, the redirect from Remix, and db from the utils file that we created. Then we create this action function, and this is probably the most important bit in this whole page, because when you submit the form, this is what happens. It goes to the action function, it gets the form data from the form, it gets the name and the content that we will fill in. Then if there is anything missing, then we say form not submitted correctly. Otherwise, we have this field, or we get it in this file or variable, and then we create a joke, and then we get the joke's ID and we redirect to that. So that's important. So if I go ahead to my app and go to add your own, this goes to the new page. Now you see that here we have the name and the content. So if I don't do anything and click add, you see that it is still added something. That's sad. That's sad. So it still added it. All right, let's add our things with something better. So what's broken? What's most useful when it's broken? And then we say an egg. No, it's, how would you name it? Broken, and then this and this. So we add this, and now you see that it automatically shows us what's most useful when broken, an egg. It shows us, takes us to exact joke after it has been created, and also adds this to the list as well. Cool. Then let's see. So once we have this, we need to add this, save this, and it takes us there. One of the things that we also need to probably say is, if not the type, but we also need to not just check the type, but also the content itself. So we can say something like, because it allowed me to send empty string, and that's not cool. So if we say name equals to this, or content equals to this, then we also need to do something like this. Okay, so now let's see. So if I just add new on and click add, it says cannot read property route of undefined. So it broke it with a 500. Why? Form not submitted correctly. Does it show it here? So if the name is this, throw new error and do that. Okay. Maybe I think we need to do something else later on. But if we crash it, then maybe it gives us that error. So let's see. Maybe they have already covered this. Okay. So the new TSX, it has use action data and redirect. So we need to add that into the new.tsx. I'm going to close other files because it feels like I'm being overwhelmed with that. So the action function, just below that, we got the redirect from Remix. We also need to have validate joke content, and we also need a validator here as well. So we don't need these then. Okay, that's fine. So we don't need these. So we go ahead and we create those two things, validate joke content. It takes content, checks if it's less than 10, we have a problem. Joke name less than 2, we have a problem. Then we get this action data as a type. So we create that. Now this is a type of form error, field error, fields. These are all going to be used inside the HTML. Whenever there's something wrong, we are going to highlight the correct error based on the input itself. So we are going to go ahead and say action function. We are going to take this one out. And let's see. So action function is going to be this. We give this a type, just like this. So it's going to be either a promise of response or action data. Then we return the form error if we have this issue. So instead of throwing the error, we return this form error. Then we got field errors, and then we have this. So we're going to create the field errors, fields, name content. And if we check if we don't have any value, then we add the fields to it. Okay. So we get object of values, field errors dot sum boolean, and then we add that to this. Okay, that sounds good. So finally, we use this action data inside our code. In the new joke route, we use that action data. When we submit the form, we get the action data, and then we go ahead and say the default value is going to be this. So we go to our input, and the name is going to be empty. And then we say something like this. Default value is action data fields.name. Then we got aria invalid and aria described by. So we are going to add those as well. So we go to name, and after this, we just add those attributes, do something like this. Okay. Then we also go ahead and add this error block right after the label. So if we have an error, we're going to show that. So right after the label, we have the errors. Now we are going to do the same thing for the other one, which is the content. So we are going to add this default value. Then we are also going to add the aria labels and aria described by. So let's quickly do that. I'm going to go to the end of it, add it, save it. And now finally, we are going to add the action data here. So let's go ahead and do that. Right after the label, we got the action data. And now we should be able to see errors. So if I refresh now, if I do something like A, and if I add, you can see that it says joke's name is too short. So now we are adding the validations using React. Similarly, if I say something like AB, now if I save, so this is fine, but this is not fine. So if I go forward and add something like this and click add, now you can see that we got the content and the name as well and the permanent link as well. So everything is working in that case. Cool. Authentication. So we got authentication, unexpected errors, expected errors, SEO, JavaScript forms, prefetching. There are a lot of things that could be covered, but I think I'm going to take a pause right now, and I'm going to be looking into the authentication part in the next stream, which is going to be today, later. But I have to go now. So I'm going to be going now, and I'm going to probably stream later from the authentication part, and then also looking at some of the other content from here. So I hope working with all of this would give you some ideas on how to make things work, and what to do when the code goes to a particular chunk in this whole tutorial. And yeah, I hope you learned something out of it. So thank you for joining, and I'm going to see you later. I'm going to be streaming today later as well, maybe in about 3 to 4 hours. But yeah, you'll get the notification if you have subscribed already. So I'm going to see you there. Thank you everyone for joining. Hope you have a good time until the next time we meet. And I'm going to go have some fun. Then I'm going to talk to you later. Bye.